Hello, Earth. How are you tonight? I have a story for you. It's about a midget hooker. Interested? So, I have looked for this story everywhere. I asked my favorite murder to tell this story. I have asked True Crime Loser to tell this story. You don't know this story. No one does. So I guess I have to tell it. So I hope I do okay. So in Denver, there's a really famous street called Colfax. And in like 95, 94, I was learning how to drive, and me and my boyfriend would practice driving up and down Colfax, which is a super famous street and has always been really naughty. I worked in a business that used to be a brothel, and if the Johns misbehaved, the madams were allowed to tie them up in the basement and torture them, and that was in the 1800s. So it's always been wicked, wicked Colfax. And we thought it was really funny that there was a midget hooker. And it really felt like she had always been there, but it turns out she was only there for a year. And I have never forgotten her. Her name was Belinda Bridgmon, but everybody knew her as Little Bit or Shorty. And we would drive looking for her, and we would be so excited when we saw her. And a friend of mine went to East High School, which is right on Colfax, and he rode the bus with a gentleman who knew her personally and knew all of her prices. And so, isn't that funny? And then he's like, but she's addicted to crack and her family can't get her to stop. And I'm like, oh, that is less funny. And I never thought I'd say the good old days of crackheads, but meth is the worst fucking thing ever. I can't believe something worse than crack showed up. And now there's fentanyl and carfentanil, and holy hell, you're taking your life in your own hands every time. So back in the good old day when it was just crack, poor Belinda, she was born on October 27th, 1975, with Russell Silver dwarfism. And her father was like, oh no, she's already starting out on the wrong foot. But apparently she had a great spirit and handled everything well. She loved school. She always had a smile on her face, according to her grandmother. But her father had a bit of a drinking problem, and I kind of sense her mom did too. And so Dad's like, I don't want to be around you until I'm sober. I don't want to be that guy. And so it took him a little while, but eventually, 15, 17 years later, he's like, I'm moving to Denver and you can come be with me. And at this point, she had lived in like 6 different states: Wyoming, Las Vegas, Washington. So her life was not very stable from go. And he gets an apartment where it's affordable near Colfax. And it was on Franklin and Colfax, which is a notorious neighborhood. And so he would go to work, and this 18-year-old girl, what's she going to do? She's going to hang out on the crazy, wild street of Colfax. And I lived right on Colfax and Humboldt when I was 18, and it was so exciting. And it's just all the hubbub. It feels like New York. And I felt safe because I had like a 150-pound dog. But I was foolish for thinking I was safe. But so she's on Colfax, and she meets a man who turns her on to crack. And she got hooked really, really fast. And so she starts doing what all the other ladies on Colfax are doing. And she starts sex working. And, I know that she started at $20 an hour. I mean, what are you going to do? So she ends up getting arrested, I think in March of 94 is her first arrest. And it doesn't take long for all the cops to learn about the dwarf hooker. And not that they had a target out for her, but all the other street workers are like 20 and 30 and 40. And she's just so young, and she's the size of a child. So all of them are adamant trying to help her. It's crazy. One of the cops was named Snow White. I am not kidding. And they say, listen, I'm going to arrest you every time I see you because this is not safe. You are too tiny. And she's like, I know, but where am I going to get a job? I can't drive a car. And it's just excuse after excuse. And so this cop is like, listen, this is my cell phone number, this is my business card, and not many cell phones back then. I think it was a pager, now that I think about it. It was most likely a pager number, because it was 94. Here's all my data. I will take you to the Social Security office. I will take you to Americans with Disability. We will get you taken care of. And it was just excuse after excuse. She's like, well, I have to do this because my mom is taking my Social Security checks. She gets them in Las Vegas. How messed up is that? Whoa. So she continues working and she's getting arrested. And she continues working and getting arrested. And apparently she was a dream to work with when she was arrested. Like, one cop said that they would pull up and she would just jump in the front seat and stand on the front seat. And he said that he felt like he was driving with a child. The officers really did try to help her. Her father tried to help her, but he's got to go to work and she's gonna do her thing when she's gone, when he's at work. So at one point I thought we had a serial killer in Denver because there was a streetwalker who was murdered in August of 94. Her name was Karen Casting. And I believe she was found in a dumpster too, so it was kind of weird. And so everybody's kind of on edge and really worried about there being a serial killer. And they're begging her to stop doing crack and please just get a real job. And she did have a gentleman named, his nickname was Chicago, and he was a bodyguard, so he kept her safe for the most part, but he wasn't always with her, and they would do crack together, so things get dangerous when that happens. And apparently she also had a boyfriend named Chris Weatherall. And so her last arrest was December 3rd of 1994, and she's in jail for 10 days. And she gets out on December 13th, and she's dead within 24 hours. So apparently she went straight to her boyfriend's house, and at some point she took a shower, and the next day, the 15th, a guy is hunting for cans to recycle and dumpster diving, and he comes across a huge box. And he opens it, and something is wrapped in plastic, and it's a little bit, and her hair is still wet from her shower. And so the article I read was from the Westward, and it starts with the fact that cops that were on vacation, cops that were off duty, came to the scene immediately. And even the police officers are crying, and the community is crying. All of the sex workers are there, and they're all crying. Everybody loved this woman, and they're very upset because they all saw it coming, and they all tried to help her, and they couldn't stop this. So Chris finds out that they're looking for you, and he turns himself in. And he says that he was really mad because she was hitting the pipe too much, like being a hog with the crack, which, you know, that's drugs for you. But also she's been in prison for 10 days. So, you know, of course she's probably going to want double hits. And so combine that with the fact that he tried to have sex with her and he couldn't achieve orgasm. So he's really, really mad. And she takes a shower, and when she comes out, he ties her up and he strangles her. And then someone who knew the both of them saw him looking for a box a couple blocks away, and he's acting really shady and sketchy, and he's just, I gotta go, and he leaves. And she's found like 12 hours later. Like he didn't try very hard. I think he panicked. And they think he strangled her. So I have thought about her for years. I've thought about her for 30 years. And I read an article in a really cool free newspaper in Denver called The Westward. And this article is from 1995. So the last this article has is that his bail was posted, or no, his bail is going to be, his bond is $250,000 in 1994. That's a lot of money. And I can't really find much follow-up for that, but I will absolutely look. But I just have been itching to understand what happened to this woman. And, you know, it's the one story I couldn't find from all the true crime people. So I felt like I will do the service of letting you know about the wonderful story of the beautiful little bit and who was taken far too soon from us. And yeah, keep her in our hearts. Send the good vibe. Think of her parents. It was wild. That's that crazy story. This is the crazy story I have. No crimedy today. I just have the crime. No comedy. There's nothing funny about this. Like and subscribe, I guess.